My insane mother faked my sister's death for 15 years. When I finally found out she was alive, my mom told me she did it for our own good. So I went to visit her, and she told me a family secret. So disgusting I almost threw up. All I knew was I had to make mom pay. I found my dead twin's name on my mom's credit card, except she wasn't dead, and now I don't know who to trust. When I was 10, my twin sister Emily and I disappeared on our walk home from school. I was found hours later near a drainage tunnel, alone, confused and bloodied, but alive. I don't remember what happened. The doctor said I had trauma-induced amnesia. My mom Susan said I fell and hit my head, but Emily was taken by a stranger, that she was probably dead. That hit us hard. So hard that after that we moved towns. We changed our names, but my mom refused therapy. She refused to let me talk about Emily or do or say anything involving her at all. She said the past couldn't be changed, so why bother with it? I spent the next 15 years of my life being haunted by someone no one wanted to talk about. Sometimes I heard her voice in dreams. Sometimes I thought I saw her reflection where mine should have been, but I buried it because my mom looked me in the eye and said, there is nothing left to find. Last month I moved back home after a breakup. I was 25, jobless, heartbroken, and still too tangled in guilt to fully breathe. One night I noticed a locked drawer in my mom's office. I tugged the handle. It didn't budge, so I let it go. A week later, I got a fraud alert from Amazon. A purchase shipped to another city, billed to a card I didn't recognize. I checked the account. The name on the card said Emily G. My hands went cold. The charges weren't new. There were regular purchases, groceries, books, therapy payments, all in a small town about 60 miles from us. I asked my mom about it. She said it was an old joint charity account and asked if I wanted spaghetti for dinner. She left for a trip the next weekend. I didn't wait. I had to know the truth, so I grabbed a screwdriver and popped the drawer open. Inside, letters, postmarked from different states, addressed from someone named Emily, some recent. There was a photo, a teenage girl at a lake cabin. She looked like me, exactly like me. A hand-drawn card that said, Happy 18th to my mirror. A notebook with journal entries. Emily didn't mean to run. I had to keep her safe. No one would understand what she did. I sat there for hours, just staring at the page where my mom had written to herself like she was God and guilt all at once. I drove to the town where the charges came from, told the receptionist at the therapy office I was writing a piece on sibling reconnection. She said she couldn't tell me anything. I left a note anyway. That night, I got a message, not from Emily, from someone named Lisa, a social worker. She said she saw the note, asked to meet. Lisa told me Emily had been institutionalized since she was 13, brought in as a Jane Doe. She'd had violent episodes, said she was hiding from someone. The woman who admitted her used fake documents, called herself an aunt. Her name was Susan. I didn't say anything. I just went home and waited. When my mom got back, I handed her the photo with the notebook and the letters. She didn't even deny it. She just sat down and actually told me the truth. She said that when we were 10, Emily hurt someone, a neighbor's baby. She said Emily didn't mean to. She just got angry, but the baby died, and Emily shut down. She stopped talking and stopped moving. I remember this period. My mom told me she was just sad about her best friend's dog dying, and so my mom staged a scene. She told me I fell and that Emily was taken, that she was gone. In reality, while Emily and I were walking down that canal, she snuck behind us. She drugged me, then took Emily by force. She planted blood on me, then lied to everyone. They would have locked her up forever, she said, or worse. I asked why she never got help and drove straight to the hospital. She came willingly, surprisingly. They verified my ID. They called in a therapist. I met Emily there for the first time in almost 10 years. She was taller than me, paler. Her smile was crooked like it forgot how to exist. We sat in silence. I felt something tear and stitch itself back together all at once. And right before I left, she grabbed my hand. There was a third sister, she whispered. Susan never told you that part. I stared at Emily, my mind reeling. A third sister? My hands started shaking as I gripped the edge of the plastic visitor's chair. Emily's eyes darted toward the door, then back to me. What do you mean? I managed to ask, though my voice came out as barely a whisper. Emily leaned forward, her hospital gown rustling against the chair. The letters in Susan's drawer. Did you read all of them? I shook my head. I'd been too overwhelmed by finding out Emily was alive to read everything thoroughly. Emily's crooked smile twitched, and she glanced at the security camera in the corner of the room. There's one from 1995, 2 years before we were born. Her voice dropped even lower. It mentions a baby named Catherine. Catherine. The name hit me like ice water. I'd never heard it before. Not once in 25 years. Emily must have seen my confusion because she continued, her words coming faster now. I found out when I was 12. Before. She trailed off, and we both knew what she meant. Before the incident with the neighbor's baby. Before everything fell apart. A nurse knocked and entered, checking Emily's vitals. We sat in silence until she left, the tension in the room thick enough to choke on. Once the door clicked shut, Emily grabbed my wrist. Susan visits me sometimes. Not often, but she comes. Last time she was hammered. Started crying about how she failed all three of us. Emily's grip tightened. When I asked about Catherine, she shut down. But I've been putting pieces together. My head spun. 3 daughters, 3 sisters. And Susan had hidden one completely. I thought about all the times my mother had stared at old photo albums with that distant look. How she'd sometimes set 3 plates at dinner before catching herself and putting one away. I need to go back to the house, I said, standing abruptly. I need to find more. Emily nodded, releasing my wrist. Be careful. Susan's good at keeping secrets. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through every memory, searching for clues I might have missed. The house was dark when I arrived. Susan's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. I went straight to her office, to that drawer I'd pried open. This time, I dumped everything onto the floor, spreading papers across the carpet. Bills, receipts, letters. I sorted through them methodically, looking for anything from 1995. There. A yellowed envelope postmarked from a town 3 states away. My hands trembled as I opened it. Susan, I'm writing to confirm that the adoption proceedings have been finalized. Catherine has been placed with the family we discussed. As per your request, all records have been sealed. She will have a good life. Please don't contact us again. Adoption. Catherine had been adopted. I sat back on my heels, the letter crumpling in my fist. Susan had given away a baby, then had twins 2 years later. Why? I heard the front door open. Susan's footsteps echoed in the hallway. I quickly shoved the papers back into the drawer, but I kept the adoption letter. By the time she appeared in the doorway, I was sitting at her desk. The letter spread flat in front of me. She froze when she saw it. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. You went back to see her, she said. It wasn't a question. She told me about Catherine. Susan's shoulders sagged. She looked older suddenly, like she'd been holding her body together by sheer will and had finally given up. She sank into the chair across from me. I was 17, she began, her voice hollow. Stupid. Thought I was in love. When I got pregnant, my parents kicked me out. I lived in my car, worked 3 jobs, tried to make it work, but I couldn't. I was barely surviving myself. She picked at a loose thread on her sleeve, avoiding my eyes, so I gave her up. Closed adoption. Thought I was doing the right thing. Then, years later, I met your father. Got married. Had you and Emily. Everything was perfect until Emily hurt that baby. I finished. Susan flinched. When that happened, when I saw what Emily was capable of, I kept thinking about Catherine. What if she'd inherited something? What if I'd passed on some kind of darkness? I started looking for her just to check, just to make sure she was okay. Did you find her? Susan nodded slowly. She was 13, living in foster care. Her adoptive parents had died in a car accident when she was 8. She'd been bounced around ever since. My stomach churned. Our sister, alone in the system while we lived in our comfortable house, oblivious to her existence. I tried to get custody, Susan continued, but the courts wouldn't hear it. Closed adoption meant closed. I hired lawyers, spent everything we had saved. Your father left because of it. Said I was obsessed, that I needed to let it go. I remembered when Dad left. I was 7. Susan had told us he'd found someone else, but now I wondered if that was just another lie. So you kept trying, I prompted. I kept trying. And then Emily did what she did. And I realized I couldn't handle 2 daughters, let alone 3, especially not with Emily's issues. So I made a choice. I protected Emily the only way I knew how, and I stopped looking for Catherine. The room fell silent. I stared at the adoption letter, trying to process everything. 3 sisters. 1 given away, 1 hidden away. 1 left to live with the guilt of it all. Where is she now? I asked finally. Susan shook her head. I don't know. The last information I had was from 10 years ago. She aged out of foster care. Could be anywhere. I stood up, pocketing the letter. I'm going to find her. Don't. Susan's voice was sharp. Leave it alone. You don't understand what you're getting into. I understand that I have another sister out there who probably thinks she has no family. I understand that you've been lying to me my entire life. I understand that Emily's been locked up for 15 years while you played God with all our lives. Susan's face crumpled. I was trying to protect you all. No, I said, heading for the door. You were trying to protect yourself. I spent the next week diving into public records, social media, anywhere I could search for Catherine. The adoption letter had mentioned the agency name. I called them, but they wouldn't give me any information. Closed adoptions were ironclad, but I didn't give up. I hired a private investigator with the last of my savings. It took him 3 days to find her. Catherine Morrison, 27 years old, living 2 hours away in the city, working as a social worker, of all things. The irony wasn't lost on me. The investigator had included a photo from her LinkedIn profile. She had Susan's nose, Emily's sharp cheekbones, my dark hair. I drove to her office building and waited in the parking lot, my hands gripping the steering wheel. What would I even say? Hi, I'm your sister, surprise. It sounded insane even in my head, but I'd come this far. I couldn't turn back now. I was still gathering my courage when she walked out of the building. She moved with purpose, checking her phone as she headed toward a blue Honda. I got out of my car before I could lose my nerve. Catherine? She looked up, and I saw the moment recognition flickered in her eyes. Not recognition of me specifically, but of something familiar. Her face, my face, our face. Yes? Her voice was cautious. My name is... I paused, realizing I'd been about to give my fake name, the one Susan made me use after we moved. My real name is Sarah. Sarah Grant. I think I'm your sister. Catherine went very still. Her phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the asphalt. Neither of us moved to pick it up. That's not possible, she said finally. I don't have any family. I pulled out the adoption letter, unfolding it with shaking hands. You were adopted in 1995. Your birth mother was Susan Grant. She's my mother too. Mine and Emily's. We're twins. Catherine took the letter, scanning it quickly. Her face went through a series of expressions I couldn't read. When she looked back at me, her eyes were hard. 27 years, she said. 27 years? And now you show up? I didn't know. She never told us. I just found out last week. Where is she? Susan? Catherine's voice was bitter. Let me guess. Suburban house, white picket fence, playing happy families while I bounced between foster homes. I didn't know how to tell her the truth was somehow worse than that. That Susan had destroyed our family trying to find her, then given up when things got too hard. That Emily had been locked away. That I'd spent 15 years thinking my twin was dead. It's complicated, I said weakly. Catherine laughed, but there was no humor in it. It always is, isn't it? She handed the letter back to me and bent to pick up her phone. I need time to process this. I can't do this right now. Can I give you my number? I asked, in case you want to talk. She hesitated, then nodded. I scribbled it on the back of a receipt and handed it to her. She took it without looking at me. Sarah, she said as she unlocked her car. That's your real name? I nodded. And Emily, the twin? She's in a psychiatric facility. Has been since we were 13. It's a long story. Catherine's expression softened slightly. Sounds like we all got the short end of the stick. She drove away without another word. I stood in the parking lot until her car disappeared around the corner, then sat on the curb and cried. 3 days passed before Catherine called. I was sitting in Susan's kitchen, staring at a cold cup of coffee, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Sarah? Her voice was different, steadier. I've been thinking. Can we meet? We arranged to meet at a diner halfway between us. I arrived early, chose a booth in the back, ordered water with shaking hands. When Catherine walked in, she carried a manila folder thick with papers. She slid into the seat across from me, pushing the folder between us. I did some digging of my own, about Susan, about our family. Her jaw tightened. There are things you need to know. I opened the folder. Medical records, police reports, court documents. My stomach dropped as I read the first page. A hospital admission form from 1994. Susan Grant, age 16. Psychiatric evaluation following attempted OD. She was hospitalized 3 times before I was born, Catherine said quietly. Severe depression, psychotic episodes. The doctors recommended long-term treatment, but she checked herself out against medical advice. I flipped through more pages. Incident reports from Susan's high school. Violent outbursts. Property damage. A teacher's statement describing Susan attacking a classmate who'd made fun of her pregnancy. This can't be right, I whispered. But even as I said it, pieces started clicking into place. Susan's extreme reactions. Her paranoia about Emily. The way she'd orchestrated elaborate lies without hesitation. Catherine leaned forward. There's more. I tracked down the family who adopted me. The Morrisons. They're dead now, but their daughter still lives in town. She remembered me. Remembered the day Susan showed up at their house when I was 5. My blood ran cold. Susan found you when you were 5? She was screaming, demanding they give me back. Mr. Morrison had to physically restrain her while his wife called the police. They filed a restraining order. That's why they moved across the country 6 months later. I stared at the restraining order. Susan's name typed in stark black letters. 5 5 years old. Catherine had been 5, and Susan had already been trying to get her back, years before she'd claimed to start looking. But she told me she didn't find you until you were 13, I said. Catherine's laugh was bitter. She found me multiple times. The Morrisons weren't the first family to file a restraining order. I've found 3 others. She stalked me through the foster system, Sarah, for years. My phone rang. Susan. I declined the call, my hands trembling. It rang again immediately. You should answer, Catherine said. She knows you're not home. I picked up on the 3rd ring. Susan's voice was frantic. Where are you? I went to check on you and you're gone. Your car's gone. Where did you go? I'm fine, I said carefully. Just needed some air. You're with her, aren't you? With Catherine. I know you found her. I know what she's telling you. Don't believe her lies, sweetheart. She doesn't understand. She's confused. Catherine could hear every word. Her face hardened. She pulled out her phone, started recording. What lies, Mom? I asked. She'll try to turn you against me. Say I'm dangerous. Say I hurt people. But I've only ever protected you girls. Everything I've done has been for you. Like drugging me when I was 10. Like locking Emily away. Silence. Then quieter. You don't understand what Emily did. What she was capable of. I saved that girl's life by putting her somewhere safe. What about the other times? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. What about the teacher you attacked in high school? The psychiatric holds? The families you stalked trying to get Catherine back? The silence stretched longer this time. When Susan spoke again, her voice had changed. Colder. Flatter. Who told you that? Does it matter? Come home. Now, we need to talk about this properly. I don't think that's a good idea. Sarah, her voice cracked. Please, you're all I have left. Don't let her poison you against me. I'm your mother. I love you. I hung up. Catherine stopped recording, her face grim. We need to see Emily again, she said. Together, there are questions only she can answer. The drive to the psychiatric facility felt endless. Catherine followed in her car. I kept checking my mirrors, paranoid Susan might be following us. My phone rang constantly. Susan, I turned it off. At the facility, I signed us both in. The receptionist recognized me, smiled sadly. She'll be happy to see you again so soon. Emily was in the common room this time, working on a puzzle. She looked up when we entered, and her face went white when she saw Catherine. Oh my God, she breathed. You look just like us. Catherine sat down across from her, studying Emily's face like a mirror. I'm Catherine, the first daughter, the one she gave away. Emily's hands stilled on the puzzle pieces. She talked about you sometimes. When she visited, said you were better off not knowing us. Tell me about the baby, Catherine said quietly. The neighbor's baby. What really happened? Emily's whole body tensed. She glanced at the staff member monitoring the room, then back at us. It wasn't what Susan told everyone. My heart hammered against my ribs. What do you mean? The baby was already sick, Emily whispered. The parents knew. They were taking her to the hospital. I was babysitting while they packed a bag. The baby had a seizure. I tried to help, but I didn't know what to do. She died in my arms. The room spun. But Susan said you hurt her. Said you got angry. Emily's laugh was hollow. Susan needed a reason. A story that would make sense. Who would believe a 10-year-old about a medical emergency? She said if I told the truth, they'd think I was lying. Said they'd take us both away. So she made you the villain, Catherine said softly. Made everyone believe you were dangerous. She was protecting me, Emily said. But even she didn't sound convinced anymore. She said it was the only way. I thought about the medical records Catherine had shown me. Susan's history of violence. Her psychiatric episodes. A horrible thought crept into my mind. Emily, I said slowly, did Susan ever hurt you before the baby died? Emily's silence was answer enough. Catherine pulled out her phone, showed Emily the documents she'd found. As Emily read, tears started rolling down her cheeks. She used to lock me in the closet when I misbehaved, Emily said finally. Said it was for my own good. Said I had too much energy, too much anger, just like her. She was projecting, Catherine said, making you believe you were the problem when it was her all along. My phone, even turned off, somehow buzzed with an emergency alert. I powered it on to check. 17 missed calls, 43 texts. The last one made my blood freeze. I'm at Catherine's apartment. We need to talk. All of us, like a family. Catherine's face went pale when I showed her. How does she know where I live? She's been watching you, Emily said quietly. She never stopped. She told me once that she keeps tabs on you. For your own safety, she said. Catherine stood abruptly. I need to go. I have a roommate. If Susan's there, we'll come with you, I said. Catherine's voice was firm. This is something I need to handle. But first, we need to make sure you're both safe. She was right. If Susan was spiraling, if she felt cornered, there was no telling what she might do. I thought about the elaborate lies she'd constructed, the drugging, the false police reports, the years of manipulation. There's a motel off Highway 9, Emily said. Susan doesn't know about it. I heard some of the staff talking about it. They use it for family visits sometimes. We made a plan. I would take Emily out on a day pass, something the facility allowed for family members. We'd go to the motel, wait for Catherine to handle things at her apartment, safety in numbers. The discharge process took an hour. Papers to sign, medications to collect. The whole time my phone buzzed with messages from Susan. I didn't read them. As we walked to my car, Emily grabbed my arm. There's something else. Something I never told Susan. About that night when we were 10. I helped her into the passenger seat, my hands shaking. What about it? I remember more than I let on. The drainage tunnel. You weren't alone when they found you. My blood turned to ice. What? There was someone else there. A woman. She was holding you, crying. When she saw the flashlights coming, she ran. That's impossible. The police report said I was alone. Emily shook her head. I saw the original report once, during a therapy session where they were trying to help me process trauma. It mentioned a second person at the scene, but that detail never made it to the official file. My mind raced. Who would have been with me? Who would have run? And why would that detail be removed from the report? My phone rang. Catherine. She's not here, Catherine said, and I could hear the relief in her voice. But my roommate said a woman matching Susan's description was here 2 hours ago. She had a key. How did she have a key? I don't know. Nothing's missing, but Catherine paused. There's a letter on my bed, addressed to all 3 of us. Don't read it alone, I said. We're going to the motel, room 237. Meet us there. The drive felt surreal. Emily beside me, alive after 15 years of believing she was dead. Catherine on her way to meet us. 3 sisters, reunited by lies and separated by truth. The motel was run down but clean. I paid cash, gave a fake name. Old habits from Susan's paranoid years. We waited in the room, Emily sitting on one bed, me pacing by the window. Catherine arrived 30 minutes later with a letter. Her hands shook as she held it out. I couldn't wait. I read it in the car. The envelope was thick, expensive stationery. Susan's handwriting, usually so precise, looked frantic. I opened it, and Emily moved beside me so we could read together. My dear girls, by the time you read this, you'll think you know the truth. You'll think I'm a monster. But there are things you still don't understand. Things I've protected you from your entire lives. Catherine, Susan, my firstborn, my biggest regret, not giving you up but failing to get you back. You were perfect, too perfect. They said I was too young, too unstable, but I knew better. I've always known better. Emily, my wild one. You think I locked you away because of the baby, but that was just the excuse I needed. You were starting to remember things, starting to ask questions about that night, about what really happened in the tunnel. Sarah, my survivor. You want to know who was with you that night? Who held you while you bled? It was your real mother, your biological mother, the woman who gave birth to you and Emily, the woman I've been protecting you from since you were 3 years old. I'm not your mother. I'm your aunt. Your real mother, my sister Rebecca, was dangerous, genuinely dangerous. Not the way they said I was. She hurt people, enjoyed it. When she had you and Emily, I thought babies might change her, make her better, but it made her worse. She used to play games, sick games, leave you in dangerous places to see if you'd survive, hold you underwater to watch you struggle. I reported her so many times, but she was charming, convincing. No one believed me. The night Emily disappeared, Rebecca took you both. I'd been watching, waiting for her to make a mistake. When I found you in that tunnel, you were almost dead. Emily was already gone, Rebecca said. She'd buried her in the woods. I knocked Rebecca unconscious and ran with you, called 911 from a payphone. Then I went back and dealt with my sister. She's buried where she left Emily, or where she said she did. I never found Emily's body. When Emily showed up at that hospital 3 years later, alive, with no memory of those missing years, I knew Rebecca had lied, but I also knew Emily was damaged. Whatever Rebecca did to her in those 3 years broke something inside her. So yes, I lied. I drugged you to keep you from remembering. I institutionalized Emily to keep her safe. I changed our names, moved towns, created new identities, because Rebecca wasn't working alone. She had friends, people who helped her, people who are still out there. I've spent 22 years watching, waiting, protecting you all from shadows you didn't even know existed. But I'm tired now, and you girls seem determined to dig up the past. The drainage tunnel is real. The coordinates are below. If you want the truth, the whole truth, go there. Dig where the old oak tree used to stand. But be prepared for what you'll find, and be careful. They're still watching. They've always been watching. All my love, Susan, Aunt Susan, I suppose I should say. The letter fell from my numb fingers. Emily made a sound like a wounded animal. Catherine stood frozen by the door. This is insane, I whispered. She's lying. She has to be lying. But even as I said it, fragments of memory surfaced. A woman's face, not Susan's, singing lullabies, hands holding me underwater, a voice saying, "Let's see how long you can hold your breath, baby." Emily was rocking back and forth on the bed. "The games," she whispered. "I remember the games. I thought they were nightmares." Catherine picked up a letter, studied it. "The coordinates, they're real." I looked them up. "It's about an hour from here, deep in the woods." "We're not going," I said immediately. "This is just another manipulation, another lie to cover up her lies." "What if it's not?" Emily's voice was small. "What if there's really something there?" My phone buzzed. Susan again. This time, a photo. The drainage tunnel from 22 years ago. But in this photo, there were 2 women. Susan, younger, terrified, and another woman who looked exactly like her but with dead eyes and a smile that made my skin crawl. The text below read, "Rebecca, 2 hours before she took you. I'm not the monster in this story." Another photo. Newspaper clipping. Local woman missing. 2 children found. The date was right. The location was right. But the woman in the photo wasn't Susan. It was Rebecca, the woman from the first photo, our mother. A third text. "Check Emily's medical records from when she was found. Check who signed her in." It wasn't me. Catherine was already pulling up records on her phone. Her face went white. Rebecca Grant. She signed Emily into the hospital 3 years after she supposedly died. The room spun. Everything I thought I knew was fracturing. If Susan was our aunt, if our mother was alive for 3 years after that night, if she had Emily, "We have to go to the coordinates," Emily said. "We have to know. It could be a trap," I argued. "Susan could be waiting there, or she could be telling the truth," Catherine said quietly. "And we've been hating the wrong person for 22 years. We sat in silence, 3 sisters bound by blood and lies, trying to decide if the truth was worth a risk. Finally, Catherine stood. "I'm going, with or without you. I've spent my whole life not knowing who I am or where I came from. If there's even a chance of answers, I have to take it." Emily nodded. "Me too. I need to know what happened during those 3 years. Why I can't remember. What she did to me." They both looked at me. I thought about Susan, who might be my aunt, who might have saved my life. I thought about Rebecca, who might be my mother, who might be a monster. I thought about 22 years of lies that might have been protection. "Okay," I said finally, "but we go prepared, and we tell someone where we're going, just in case." Catherine called her roommate, gave her the coordinates and a time frame. If we weren't back by morning, she was to call the police. We stopped at a hardware store, bought flashlights, shovels, rope, just in case. The drive into the woods was silent. The GPS led us down increasingly narrow roads until we had to park and walk. The coordinates led to a clearing. No oak tree, but a stump remained, ancient and rotting. We started digging. 3 feet down, Emily's shovel hit something hard. We cleared the dirt carefully, revealing wooden boards. A root cellar maybe, or something worse. I pried up the first board. The smell hit us immediately. Earth and decay and something chemical. Catherine shined her flashlight down. Stairs, carved from dirt, leading into darkness. "We should call the police," I said. "And tell them what?" Emily asked. "That our maybe aunt told us to dig here? That our maybe mother might have buried bodies?" She was right. We'd come this far. We had to know. The stairs were sturdy despite their age. The cellar opened into a small room. Concrete walls. A single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Miraculously still working when Catherine found the switch. The room was full of boxes. Dozens of them. All labeled with dates. Emily opened the nearest one. Photos spilled out. Children. So many children. Some looked familiar. Some looked like us. "Oh my God," Catherine whispered. She was holding a notebook. Pages filled with neat handwriting. Not Susan's. Someone else's. Subject 12 shows promising resistance to water therapy. Held breath for 3 minutes before panic set in. Will increase duration tomorrow. Subject 7 failed temperature endurance test. Disposal recommended. Subjects 23 and 24, twins, show unusual bond. Separation experiment begins tomorrow. I was going to be sick. The photos, the notes, the clinical descriptions of torture. And at the bottom of the box, identification bracelets. Hospital bracelets. From different states, different years. All with variations of our names. Sarah, Emily, Catherine, but different last names, different birth dates. "We weren't the only ones," Emily said, her voice hollow. "She had other children, other sets of twins, other daughters she gave away." Catherine found another box. This one had videotapes. We didn't have a player, but the labels were enough. Water training, S23. Endurance test, S24. Separation anxiety documentation, K1, S23 and S24. Sarah and Emily. K1, Catherine, the first. At the back of the room, a metal filing cabinet. Locked, but the rust had weakened it. Inside, medical records, birth certificates, death certificates, so many death certificates. Rebecca Grant, deceased 2001. But that was wrong. If Susan's timeline was right, Rebecca died in 1999. Unless she faked her death, I said, multiple times. New identities, new children, new experiments. Emily found a map. Locations marked across 3 states. Some circled in red, some crossed out. One marked current, in fresh ink. Fresh ink. We need to leave, I said. Now. But it was too late. We heard footsteps above us. Slow, deliberate. The cellar door creaked open. I told you to be careful. Susan's voice drifted down. I told you they were still watching. She appeared at the top of the stairs, not alone. A woman stood beside her. Older, grayer, but unmistakable. The woman from the photos. Rebecca, our mother. She smiled, and it was the same dead smile from 22 years ago. My girls, she said, together at last, just like I always planned. Rebecca descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. Susan followed behind her, her face a mask I couldn't read. My legs felt frozen to the dirt floor. Don't look so shocked, Rebecca said, her voice eerily calm. I've been watching you girls piece things together. Quite impressive, really, though you missed some crucial details. Catherine moved closer to Emily and me, the 3 of us instinctively forming a tight cluster. Rebecca's eyes tracked the movement, that dead smile widening. Subject behavior, she murmured, protective clustering in response to perceived threat. Fascinating how it persists even after separation. Susan flinched at the clinical tone. Rebecca, please, they're not subjects anymore. They're our daughters. Rebecca turned to her sister, eyebrows raised. Our daughters? You mean my daughters? The ones you stole from me? You were hurting them. Susan's composure cracked. The things you did. Research, Rebecca interrupted. Important research. Do you know how many children die from preventable accidents each year? I was creating survivors, teaching them to adapt, to endure. Emily's hand found mine, squeezing hard. I felt her trembling. Rebecca noticed. Ah, Emily, my greatest success and biggest disappointment. 3 years of conditioning, and you retained nothing. Such a waste. You tortured children, Catherine said, her voice steady despite everything. That's not research. That's abuse. Rebecca tilted her head, studying Catherine like a specimen. The first attempt. So much potential. But Susan interfered before I could even begin proper trials. Tell me, Catherine, did you ever wonder why you survived all those foster homes? Why you adapted so well? Catherine's jaw tightened. I survived because I'm strong. Because I made you strong, Rebecca corrected. Even those few months before Susan gave you away, I was already conditioning you, building your foundation. Susan moved between Rebecca and us. Enough. Girls, get out of here. Run. But Rebecca grabbed Susan's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. They're not going anywhere. We have work to finish. I scanned the room, looking for another exit. Nothing. Just the stairs, blocked by both women. The boxes of evidence surrounded us, testament to years of horror. The police know where we are, I lied. Catherine's roommate will call them if we don't check in. Rebecca laughed. The roommate who's currently enjoying a very deep sleep? I'm thorough, Sarah. Always have been. My blood ran cold. Catherine pulled out her phone, but there was no signal this deep in the woods. Besides, Rebecca continued, what would the police find? A concerned mother reuniting with her daughters? Susan's the one who kidnapped you, who falsified documents, who's been hiding you all these years. To protect them from you, Susan yanked her arm free. You're sick, Rebecca. You've always been sick. Sick? Rebecca's voice rose for the first time. I'm a visionary. Do you know how many parents have benefited from my research? How many children are alive today because of what I learned? She pulled out her own phone, swiping through files, published papers, consulting work. I've saved more lives than you could imagine by experimenting on your own children, Emily said quietly. Rebecca's attention snapped to her. By creating data that couldn't be obtained any other way. You think those safety standards for car seats, school fences, household chemicals just appeared? Someone had to test the limits. Using us as lab rats, I said. Using my own genetic material to ensure consistent results, Rebecca corrected. I couldn't trust other people's children. Too many variables. Susan lunged forward suddenly, trying to grab Rebecca's phone. They struggled, and in the chaos, Catherine grabbed a shovel. Stop! She shouted, raising it threateningly. Both women froze. Rebecca's smile returned. Good. Threat assessment and tool utilization. You see, Susan? The conditioning holds even after all these years. Shut up, Catherine said. We're leaving. All of us. And you're going to let us go. Or what? You'll hit me? Rebecca seemed genuinely curious. Go ahead. I'd love to see if you can overcome the inhibitions Susan programmed into you. Catherine's hands shook on the shovel handle. I could see her struggling, wanting to act but unable to follow through. Rebecca nodded approvingly. Thought so. Susan made sure you girls could never hurt anyone, even in self-defense. Such a waste of good survival instincts. They're not killers, Susan said. That's not a flaw. It's a weakness, Rebecca countered. The world is dangerous. They needed to be dangerous too. While they argued, Emily had been quietly moving toward the filing cabinet. She pulled out a thick folder, her face paling as she read. There were 12 of us, she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. 12 sets of twins, different fathers, different states. Rebecca's smile widened. Very good. Though technically 13 sets. The last pair didn't survive the initial trials. You called babies, Catherine said, horror clear in her voice. I documented failure points, Rebecca said calmly. Each iteration improved on the last. You 3 represent the pinnacle of my work. We're people, I shouted, not experiments. You're both, Rebecca said simply. That's what makes you special. Susan used the distraction to grab the shovel from Catherine's loosened grip. She swung it at Rebecca, who dodged with surprising agility. Still trying to play savior? Rebecca taunted. You couldn't save them then, and you can't save them now. They circled each other while we pressed against the wall. I noticed Emily pocketing several documents from the folder. Girls, when I say run, you run, Susan said, not taking her eyes off Rebecca. Don't be dramatic, Rebecca said. No one's running anywhere. We have too much to discuss. 22 years of data to review. There's nothing to discuss, Susan said. It's over. Your research, your experiments, all of it. Over. Is it? Rebecca pulled something from her pocket. A small device with a blinking light. You think this is my only facility? My only set of subjects? My stomach dropped. She was still doing this. Still experimenting on children. You're lying, Susan said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Check the map, Rebecca said, gesturing to the papers Emily held. Current locations. Active trials. Did you really think I'd stop because you took 3 subjects? Emily spread the map on a box. Multiple locations marked in fresh ink. Dates from this year, this month. No, Catherine whispered. Oh yes, Rebecca said, though I'll admit, the quality has declined with without my original subjects to compare against. That's why I've been waiting, hoping you'd find your way back to me. We'll stop you, I said. We'll go to the police, the FBI, everyone. With what evidence? The ravings of 3 traumatized women and their mentally unstable aunt? Rebecca shook her head. I have credentials, published work, respected colleagues. You have nothing but buried trauma and Susan's lies. She was right. Who would believe us? The evidence in this room could be explained away, dismissed as the delusions of a disturbed family. Unless, Rebecca continued, you help me complete my work. Willingly this time. Think of the children we could save together. Never, Emily said firmly. Rebecca sighed. Such a waste. Well, I tried the civilized approach. She pressed the device in her hand. Nothing happened for a moment. Then we heard it. Footsteps above, multiple sets. Associates of mine, Rebecca explained. People who understand the importance of my work. Susan gripped the shovel tighter. Girls, get behind me. But there was nowhere to go. The footsteps grew closer. 3 people appeared at the top of the stairs. 2 men and a woman, all wearing medical scrubs. Dr. Grant, one of the men said. Are these the subjects? The original trilogy, Rebecca confirmed. Plus my sister. She'll need to be sedated. They started down the stairs. Susan swung the shovel, catching the first man in the shoulder. He stumbled but didn't fall. Run! Susan shouted, but Catherine had grabbed another shovel. Emily picked up a piece of rebar from the corner. I found a hammer among the tools we'd brought. We're not running anymore, Catherine said. The woman in scrubs pulled out a syringe. This doesn't have to be difficult. The sedative is mild. You'll wake up somewhere safe. Your definition of safe and ours are very different, I said. They advanced. We fought. It was clumsy, desperate. Catherine's swings were wide but fierce. Emily used the rebar like a staff, keeping them at distance. I threw boxes, papers, anything I could grab. Susan fought hardest of all, placing herself between us and them repeatedly. The second man managed to grab her arm, and she headbutted him, blood streaming from both their faces. Subject aggression exceeding parameters, the woman noted clinically, even as she dodged Emily's swing. Survival instinct override, Rebecca observed from the stairs. Fascinating. Document everything. The first man lunged at me. I brought the hammer down on his reaching hand. He screamed, pulling back. The sound was satisfying in a way that scared me. Catherine connected with the woman's knee. She went down hard, the syringe rolling away. Emily kicked it into the corner, but we were tiring. They were fresh, prepared. The second man, blood still running down his face, managed to grab Emily from behind. She thrashed, but couldn't break free. Emily! I started toward her, but the first man, cradling his injured hand, blocked my path. Catherine swung at Emily's captor, but he shifted, using Emily as a shield. Susan tried to circle around, but the woman, limping now, intercepted her. Enough! Rebecca's voice cut through the chaos. She held a gun, small, efficient looking. I prefer non-violent data collection, but I'm adaptable. Everyone froze. The man holding Emily tightened his grip. Let her go, Susan said. Put down the weapons, Rebecca countered. All of them. Slowly, we complied. The shovels, the hammer, the rebar clattered to the floor. Good. Now we're going to walk upstairs calmly. There are vehicles waiting. You'll come with us, and no one needs to be hurt. You're already hurting us, Catherine said. I'm completing interrupted research, Rebecca said. The hurt was Susan's doing. 22 years of improper development, but we can fix that. There's nothing to fix, I said. We're not broken. Aren't you? Rebecca tilted her head. Emily, institutionalized for 15 years. Catherine, bouncing through foster care. Sarah, paralyzed by guilt and false memories. You're all broken. I can make you whole. We're already whole, Emily said, still struggling against her captor. Broken parts and all. Rebecca sighed. Such limited thinking. Susan's influence, no doubt. She gestured with the gun. Move, slowly. We had no choice. The man released Emily but stayed close. We filed toward the stairs, Rebecca's associates flanking us. That's when I noticed Emily's hand in her pocket, the documents she'd taken. She caught my eye, a plan forming silently between us. As we reached the stairs, Emily stumbled. Papers scattered everywhere. The clinical notes, the photos, the evidence of Rebecca's crimes spread across the dirt floor. Clumsy, Rebecca noted. Stress response affecting motor control, but Emily wasn't done. As the woman bent to gather the papers, Emily grabbed the forgotten syringe from the corner and plunged it into the woman's thigh. Chaos erupted again. The woman collapsed within seconds. Catherine shoved the injured man down the stairs. Susan grabbed the gun from a startled Rebecca. The second man reached for Emily again, but I had the hammer back in my hand. This time I didn't hesitate. The sound it made against his skull was wet. Final. He dropped. Rebecca stared at his unmoving form, then at me. Fascinating, she breathed. You overcame the inhibition. Sarah, the guilty one, became the killer. I'm not a killer, I said, but my voice shook. I'm a survivor. You taught me that. Susan kept the GN trained on Rebecca while Catherine checked the fallen associates. The woman was unconscious but breathing. The man I'd hit wasn't moving at all. The one Catherine had pushed was groaning at the bottom of the stairs. We need to go, Susan said. Now, before more come. But Rebecca laughed. More? These were my only true believers left. Funding dried up years ago. Legitimate channels closed. I've been running on fumes and determination. Then it's over, Emily said. For me, perhaps. Rebecca's smile never wavered. But the data survives. The knowledge exists. Someone else will continue the work. No, Catherine said firmly. They won't. She grabbed the nearest can of the accelerant we'd found among the supplies, started dousing the boxes, the papers, everything. Stop! Rebecca lunged forward, but Susan held her back with the gun. 22 years of research! Rebecca screamed, her composure finally cracking. You can't destroy it all! Watch us, Emily said, helping Catherine. I joined them, the 3 of us working methodically while Susan kept Rebecca at bay. Please, Rebecca begged. You don't understand. The applications, the potential. Think of the lives. Think of the lives you destroyed, I interrupted. The children who didn't survive, the ones still out there, damaged by your experiments. Catherine found matches in one of the toolboxes. She looked at Emily and me. We nodded. The first match caught immediately. Fire spread across the fuel-soaked papers, consuming years of horror. Rebecca made a wounded sound, reaching toward the flames before Susan pulled her back. We need to get out, Susan said urgently. The smoke was already thick, the old wooden structure catching fast. We climbed the stairs, Susan forcing Rebecca ahead at gunpoint. The injured man had crawled away, leaving a blood trail. We left him. Outside, the night air was sharp, clean. We could hear the fire crackling below, see smoke beginning to pour from the cellar entrance. My life's work, Rebecca whispered, staring at the smoke. Your life's work was torture, Susan said. It deserves to burn. We backed away as the fire spread. The old wood caught quickly, flames reaching toward the sky. In the distance, sirens wailed. Someone had seen the smoke. They'll arrest all of us, Rebecca said, some of her composure returning. Susan for kidnapping. You 3 for assault, arson, possibly murder. Maybe, Catherine said. But they'll also find what's left of your experiments. The bodies in that cellar. The evidence that survives the fire. Rebecca's smile faltered for the first time. We heard the sirens getting closer. Susan lowered the GN, suddenly looking exhausted. Girls, she said, I'm sorry for all of it. I thought I was protecting you, but I just created different cages. You saved us, Emily said quietly. From her. That counts for something. The fire roared higher. In its light, I could see Rebecca clearly. No longer the monster from my nightmares, just a broken woman watching her delusions burn. You could have been extraordinary, she said to us. I could have made you perfect. We're perfectly ourselves, I said. That's enough. The first police car crested the hill, lights flashing, then another. Soon the clearing filled with vehicles, firefighters, paramedics. They found the injured man first, then the woman, still unconscious from the sedative. The one at the bottom of the stairs was dead. I'd culled him. The weight of that settled on me, heavy, but not crushing. They separated us for questioning. I told the truth, all of it. The officer's face went from skeptical to horrified as I spoke. They found enough evidence in the burned cellar to confirm our story. Bodies, children's bodies, some decades old. Rebecca was arrested. So was Susan, initially, though the charges would later be dropped. Self-defense, the lawyer said. Justifiable actions given the circumstances. The surviving associates confirmed everything under interrogation. Rebecca's experiments, the other sites, the children still being monitored. A massive investigation launched. Catherine, Emily, and I spent hours in the police station, then days with FBI agents. We drew maps, shared memories, helped them piece together Rebecca's network. 12 other children were found across 3 states. All adults now, all bearing the scars of her experiments. Some had children of their own, children Rebecca had been watching, waiting to acquire. The trials would take years. Rebecca, deemed competent to stand trial despite her lawyer's efforts, faced hundreds of charges. Life in prison, no possibility of parole. Susan was released after 2 months. The courts recognized her actions as protective, if misguided. She moved to a small apartment near Emily's facility. Emily was granted supervised release. 22 years of questions finally answered. She began the slow process of building a real life. She got a job at a plant nursery, finding peace in growing things. Catherine returned to social work with renewed purpose. She specialized in cases involving child abuse, using her experience to spot signs others missed. She saved kids, lots of them. I went to therapy, real therapy this time. Dealt with the guilt, the memories, the fact that I'd killed someone. My therapist said I'd done what I needed to survive. I believed her eventually. We met for dinner once a month, the 4 of us, Susan, Emily, Catherine, and me. Not a perfect family, but a real one. Scarred, complicated, but genuine. The nightmares faded slowly. Rebecca's voice, her clinical observations, the smell of that cellar, but they faded, replaced by new memories, better ones. Catherine got married 2 years later. Emily was her maid of honor. I gave a speech that made everyone cry. Susan sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face. Emily found love too. A fellow survivor of childhood trauma who understood her silences, her sudden fears. They moved in together, adopted a rescue dog named Hope. I wrote about it, all of it. Not for Reddit this time, but for a book. Our story, told properly. The proceeds went to supporting survivors of abuse. Susan aged rapidly after everything came out, the weight of 22 years of lies finally showing. But she found peace in small moments. Grocery shopping with Emily, coffee with Catherine, late night talks with me about forgiveness. The other survivors reached out slowly. Some wanted to meet, others just wanted to know they weren't alone. We formed a support group of sorts. The most unusual family reunion imaginable. One reached out, a twin who'd lost her sister to Rebecca's experiments. We cried together, strangers bound by shared horror. She had children of her own now, watched them constantly, terrified of inherited darkness. The darkness isn't inherited, I told her. It was inflicted. Your kids are safe. She believed me eventually. 5 years passed. Rebecca died in prison. Heart attack, the report said. None of us attended the funeral. There was nothing to mourn. Susan passed 6 months later, peacefully, in her sleep. We scattered her ashes at the lake where she'd taken us as children, before everything went wrong. The good memories deserved honoring too. Life continued. Quieter now, but fuller. Catherine had twins. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. She named them Hope and Grace. New beginnings. Emily became a master gardener. Her greenhouse overflowed with life. She said plants were honest. They either grew or they didn't. No lies, no manipulation. I became a counselor myself, specialized in trauma recovery, helped others find their way back from darkness. My supervisor said I had unusual insight, if only she knew. We gathered every year on the anniversary, not of the fire, but of the day we found each other again. 3 sisters who'd survived the unsurvivable.